Sorry for the little Shatner thing. I am both excited and nervous for doing this, but let's go. Let's go. All right, taking a look at quarterback. Of course, you got Drew Brees, the ever-aging, probably one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL. Even though he's at 39, he can still sling that football better than some of the other quarterbacks in today's NFL. And I'm very sure as long as he can still sling it, he'll still be the starter for many, 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 many months. Nah, I give him 3 years maybe. All right, and of course, the running back, you have Kamara and Ingram, the two duo. After the first 4 games. Unfortunately, Ingram did get suspended for the first 4 games. It's pretty unfortunate. But still, those are a very lethal duo. And I do want to see what happens when Kamara does get a heavier workload to see how he handles it. Of course, they brought in other running backs like Terrence West and Shane Vereen. They're going to probably give him some, relief running backs. They're going to get more carries like Boston Scott, Trey Edmonds, Jonathan Williams, etc. They're just going to have some of these guys that are probably going to come in and relieve him every now and then so they don't get him injured, because he really is one of their better playmakers and just someone that they just like to use. They like to give him a nice workload to just give him a little reliever and doesn't make things too predictable. And of course, a wide receiver, you got the great Michael Thomas, one of the best wide receivers in the NFL, definitely one of my top 5 wide receivers. And you also have Ted Ginn lining up next to him with Cameron Meredith, and of course they drafted in the 3rd round Traquan Smith. They're going to go with more 4 wide receiver sets because unfortunately the tight end is not exactly what they wanted. Ever since around 2011, they wanted to have a real and legitimate receiving time. I mean, sure, they did bring in Jeremy Shockey from 2008, he lasted until 2010, but he really wasn't the same player. He wasn't that same kind of player that he was in his early days when he's with the Giants. Unfortunately, a couple injuries did impact that, but he was still solid over ramp. But once they had Jimmy Graham and they saw his athleticism, and then his athleticism was on full display, he became not only the 3rd down converter, but also the touchdown recipient. Now they want to continue to replicate that. And Ben Watson, he was athletic back in the day, but injuries and especially age, he's 38, are slowing down a bit, and maybe he can work as a 3rd down converter, but they clearly want someone more athletic, so it's likely that they're going to do more 4 wide receiver sets, probably have Thomas, Ginn, Meredith, they're hoping, as well as Smith, line up, and hopefully help improve their 3rd down conversion rate. I mean, it wasn't terrible, but let's face it, the Saints wanted to be first in that category. And of course, the offensive line is a very good offensive line, a very improved one. At your tackle duo, of course, is Teron Armstead on the left and Ryan Ramczyk on the right. And they're hoping that Armstead can play all 16 games and be 100% healthy. Not because he's shown that even at 80% he can still play and play very, very well. But they want him to be 100% healthy. Let's face it. Your guards are Pete Morford, and center is Max Unger. Overall, this is a very good This is still one of the best offenses in the NFL, top 5 worthy. Now they're not heavily relying on Drew Brees just throwing the ball 50 times a game, trying to get 5,000 yards. Now they have a legitimate run game, a better run blocking scheme, and just overall better offensive line that they had the past 2 seasons. I mean, I like Streif, but let's face it, the guards needed some improving. And I mean, yeah, Unger has been the center since 2016, but you can see that they wanted to improve it. They still wanted to improve it. All right, and of course, looking at the defense has vastly improved. I will go over that after I look at the roster. And of course, you have Cam Jordan lining up on one side, who has been one of the best all-around edge rushers. Very good at the run, very good at the run, rushing the passer, and hell, he even dropped back in coverage a couple times and was surprisingly good at it. I know, right? And even his triple-double should have gotten him the Defensive Player of the Year award. Yes, I am that serious. And lining up on the opposite side of him, this time they got Marcus Davenport, who they traded up for and drafted in the first round of this draft. And as of right now, he's probably going to be splitting snaps with Alex Okafor, depending how he recovers from his ruptured Achilles. And it's definitely unfortunate because Alex Okafor was definitely one of the better surprises of that season. He played the run it very well, and he was also effective at getting after the quarterback. It was more pressures than sacks, but still very good edge rusher. And of course, your interior, you have Rankins and Anyamato and Tyler Davidson kind of sharing snaps in between. They really wanted both those guys, Anyamato and Rankins. They both step up, but they want them to step up more in rushing the passer because they did well against the run. They stepped up in that area, but they want to kind of have that combination where they have two guys that can rush the passer and get out and play the run. If both of them can get 6 sacks each, huge improvement and a huge service for them. And I'm sure they will have to pay Anyamato a hefty penny if that happens. And of course, looking at the linebackers, it started off as kind of one of the weakest points, but it's getting better. It's starting to get towards that underrated category. They signed Demario Davis, who's going to probably be their new inside linebacker, and they'll probably have thrown outsides Anzalone and Klein. Both those guys are coming from injury. Klein's, I think it's either shoulder, back, or ACL, one of those things. And with Klein is a shoulder. I'm sorry, with Anzalone is a shoulder. And Anzalone is one guy I definitely want to see come back and really improve because he's very athletic, instinctive, and I really like watching him playing, especially during preseason. But again, I'll get back to that later. And of course, secondary, they have their 3-man corner. They got their 3 corners that they want to play. Lattimore on one, Crawley on the other, and Robinson at the third. The nickel. They signed Robinson after having a breakout season. They're hoping he can continue, even though he hit 30. And of course, your safeties are Von Bell and Marcus Williams. Overall, this is a very good team with a very high potential of not only getting back to the playoffs, but really dominating overall. I do like this defense to continue to improve because, like I said, even the linebacking core, they did add a little more athleticism with Demario Davis. His ability to crash sideline to sideline. I mean, sure, his pass coverage could use a little work, but he's gotten a lot better. He's one of those linebackers that, he was very athletic coming out of college. But over time, his skill improved. He continued to improve. He showed some serious dedication, and it really showed. He had a breakout season in 2017, and it landed him a good contract with the Saints. And like I said, Anzalone is definitely one of those players I think can replicate that. He's fast, instinctive. His main concern is durability, and I think he can overcome that to become probably a 3-down linebacker. I don't think he's going to be like elite level good, say, Thomas Davis good or even KD Wright good, but I think he can be one of the better surprises and be a very good linebacker. Again, depending how durable he can be. If he's more in the training stable than he is on the field, that will really hinder on his maximum potential. And of course, looking at the rest of the defense, I mean, they're probably going to have Robinson play outside for a bit, and then when it comes to third down and playing the nickel base set, then they'll have Crawley come in. They'll kick Robinson to the interior and have Crawley play outside. Because as much as Crawley did improve from 2016 to 2017, with better reactions to the ball and being able to step up as a complementary corner, he did have one too many penalties. I think he was tied for first in the NFL with penalties called on him. Well, at least accept the penalties called on him. And of course, looking at the offense, like I said, they're probably going to do with more 4 wide receiver sets. And it is going to be interesting to see Kamara's workload, seeing how well he can do with Ingram being out for the first 4 games. It's going to be interesting. And of course, looking at their schedule, it does have some challenges, especially going into the latter half of the season. But overall, it's still very favorable for them. With they're playing against a Jameis Winston-less team, Buccaneers first, and having to play the Browns, who somehow the Saints have struggled the last 2 matchups against them. It's interesting. And of course, they have the bye week 6, and then once that happens, things get way more difficult after the bye week. They have to play the Ravens, the Vikings, the Rams, the Eagles, the Falcons again, the Cowboys, the Panthers twice, and the Steelers. So yeah, their path back to the playoffs is going to be very, very difficult. But there is high hope for them. The amount of young talent that they have on this team, they have good leadership. It's just now all about it's all about mentality. Because like I said, how they end 2017 is definitely one of the more heartbreaking, and it can really affect a person's mindset. I mean, I know Marcus Williams, after what happened, is trying his best to not let it affect him, and having these type of team and having the right teammates help the young players kind of shake that mentality, of how their heartbreaking loss, how it all ended, how that season ended. That's something that I want to forget, and I think it's really gonna show how they do and how they recover from it when they go back to Minnesota on week 8 on prime time. How they rebound from it. If they can beat Minnesota in Minnesota on prime time, they will show to the world that they are ready to move on and have put the loss behind them. And that's going to be the real key through each game is how are they going to deal with that playoff loss? How they're going to deal with that? How they're going to rebound from that? Because I think when you get destroyed in the playoffs, it does bear some, but it's not so much when you have a repeated, highlighted matchup. I mean, when the Falcons blew that 28-3 lead in the Super Bowl, that really affected them, and it had a huge mentality thing. It had some bad things for that team, especially mental wise. And it also happened with Seattle in Super Bowl 49. When they're always reminded, they didn't run the ball on the 1-yard line with Marshawn Lynch. They threw it, and it did affect them. It got to them mentally. This could be another situation for the Saints. The heartbreaking loss. Now it's time to mentally get over it and prepare for this season. And I do like to see him probably going 12-4, 13-3. This is a very good team with a very good chance of rebounding. They do have some tough games. I think the games at Dallas and Atlanta are gonna prove some struggles. Going against the Rams and the Vikings again is definitely going to pose some problems. I am really interested to see how they'll do against the Eagles. And of course, they have Thanksgiving game, which thankfully is at home. I'm going to go to it. But the real thing is going to be going against, the Panthers twice in 3 weeks. After they beat the Panthers 3 times in a row in 2017, Panthers are probably going to be bitter and very sore about that. But I do see this team very much well improving and continuing their hot streak. This isn't just that 1 year off that they had in 2016 or hell, even in 2013, where they just sporadically had this good season and then just kind of reverted back. No. I don't see this. They have actual talent, good cornerstone pieces, and enough leadership to really be and continue their dominance in the NFC. I don't know if they'll make it to the Super Bowl. I know there's plenty of motivation there, especially with their owner Tom Benson dying, and that's probably one of the real motivations for this team to get back into the playoffs. Do it for Tom, etc., etc. And there's a good chance it could. There is a good chance it could happen, especially since Atlanta, and it would love it to win a Super Bowl in Atlanta, kind of really stick it to them. But they need to take it game by game. Take it all in. Put everything in the past and take everything one at a time. And if they can do that, there's no doubt they'll make it back to the playoffs, win the division again, and maybe, just maybe, get into the Super Bowl.